All right, we got our live feed going. Now we got to start our PowerPoint. For those of you who are new this year, I spent 24 years in an elementary school. I am not an expert gardener by any means, but I can make a PowerPoint like nobody's business. And I can do research. So that's what every meeting tends to be for me. If I'm leading a meeting, there's going to be a PowerPoint involved. It keeps me on track. And then we'll go from there. Today we're really going to be mostly talking about getting started. I don't know why it's taking so long. It's having its own little mental breakdown, and that's cool. It does that. For people who might be new to the Mellon Center, there are restrooms right outside the doors on either side. If you need a restroom during the meeting. For those of you who are at home watching on live, either now or later, I'm Marshall Studstill. And my computer it's Phil Wednesday. So we'll see how that goes. To give you an idea of how I planned this meeting, at our last year's end meeting, we talked about the things we would like to see. And I made notes of those types of things. And that's my plan for this year, is just to try to cover as much of that stuff as I can. If I don't know the answers, to find people who do. And then last year, somebody was talking about, can we go and get more books? Last year, we partnered with the Extension Cooperative in St. John's, and one of their representatives came every other meeting and went with Seeds to Suffer for us. And it was a book that they gave out. It's specific to Arizona information, and we used that book a lot last year. I am pulling a lot of my information as well from this book, but I'm also, I don't know if the people on camera can see me. Let me tilt myself. I forget, I have an audience. I also went and bought myself a couple of garden journals because I have sometimes short-term memory issues. And so I want to make sure I keep track of what I'm doing so that if things don't work, I can try something new the next time. But if things are successful, I know I found how to grow whatever. Like, I can grow celery like crazy. Don't eat celery like crazy, but I can grow it. It worked last year. So, I have my notes from growing celery last year. I'm only going to plant about 6 celery seeds this year. I planted a whole pack because I was just like, maybe it'll work. And then died in celery. So I encourage people, you don't have to buy a journal. You can just use note paper or whatever. I'm also vlogging on YouTube in case I decide I'm too lazy to write things down anymore, because I watch YouTube all the time and I don't watch myself. So that's how I'm journaling mine. Growing in Concho Valley, everything is so, I don't know what's going on here. We're going to give it a chance. You can do this. I have faith in you. Every year to me has been a brand new experiment. Like, it's just so different from year to year. I've been told we still haven't really had a real winter up here since I've been here. I've only been here, this is my 4th growing season. So, I still get excited because it's warm, and I'm like, oh, let's go grow things. No, because it's going to snow 6 inches next week or in 2 weeks or whatever. So I have a problem with not being impulsive. So I'm also logging weather. I've decided it's time to log weather so I can keep track. Because this could be a trend. For the past 4 years we've had mild winters, maybe that's our trend right now because weather's very cyclical. So we may go through a decade of mild winters where we could grow sooner, or we could have a longer growing season. So you kind of have to be really fluid from year to year with all of this. Now look, I clicked the button and there we go. Hey, we're up. Only 10 minutes in, that's great. All right. So the Garden Club is set up to meet on the first and third Wednesdays of every month here at the Mellon Center. They've been very gracious to give us that space, and I'm very appreciative of it. We have an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes of meeting time each of those times, because last year we only had an hour, and it seemed like it was never enough. So I asked for extra time, and they gave it to us. They were very gracious about that. Those of you who got here early, you saw we had to kind of pull some tables and chairs out and stuff. We'll have to do that probably most of the time, and that's cool. If I can get here early enough and get set up, I'll take care of all of it. But if not, your help is greatly appreciated. This is not about me just teaching you. I learn more from you than you're ever going to learn from me. This is about all of us teaching each other what works. Like I said, I've only been here for 4 years. Microclimates are a real thing out here. I came from Georgia where a seed could just whisper on the wind and sprout and grow and be prolific. Out here, the wind is a whole different thing. It is not your friend. And our soils are so different. I have 10 acres of land. In my 10 acres of land, I have 3 distinct areas with 3 distinct soil types. So, you know, what you can grow on your property, I may not be able to grow on my property because we may have completely different growing environments. What your weather is like is not what your weather is like, is not what your weather is like, certainly isn't what mine is, because mine never matches a weather forecast for anything. So, you know, when we're here having our meetings, please speak up. Share your experiences. Share what works for you and what doesn't work for you, because somebody needs that information so that they can actually grow stuff to eat this year instead of tomatoes that are this big. When I first started doing this, my husband, who's very antisocial, not in a mean way, he gets social anxiety. He was like, it's way too early for you to even think about gardening. I look at it as we have about 154 days in our growing season. So the more help I can give my plants on the front end, the more produce I get in the middle, and hopefully I can extend it even longer on the far end if I have healthy plants. So I don't think it's really too early to start. I checked on almanac.com, and it said that our growing season starts May 9th here. That's our last frost date that they have. Last year, I started earlier. It just happened to work out. That's not a given. Most people here, isn't it like Mother's Day weekend? Isn't that what most people say out here? You don't put plants out till Mother's Day weekend if you want to have a shot at anything outside. Yeah. I mean, I just got lucky last year, really. I didn't have a greenhouse last year. I was very eager because I watch YouTube videos and I see people from back home in Georgia, and they're already growing and picking stuff in April, and I'm waiting till May. Get out of here. I don't have that kind of personality. So I'm going to try to schedule our meetings, our topics, in ways that it's going to be timing-wise topical for us. Today is more about seed starting, finding out what kind of soil you have, how you want to grow if you're just starting your garden. That's really where today's focus is. Next meeting, which will be in 2 weeks, I don't know the dates because I'm stupid, but it's February something, like 18th or something like that. I'm going to be talking about trees and plants, because last year that was a thing that we lacked, is berry bushes, trees, what grows, what doesn't grow, how to make it work. The only trees we've grown on our property is the spruce trees that my husband obsessed over last year and planted way too many of, in my opinion. All but one of them is thriving. I named them all. Betty's not doing too good. Betty's probably not going to make it. And we treated them all exactly the same, so I don't know why Betty is failing. I think her parents were bad parents. So this year my goal is to plant at least 2 apple trees and 2 pear trees. That's my personal goal. And then I want to plant some berry bushes because I think berry bushes would be cool. I've been told blueberries don't do well up here. And I know I've been told that multiple times. I assure you I will be planting a blueberry bush in a pot somewhere because I'm stubborn and I also just like to do experiments. So I'm going to see if I can get a blueberry bush to thrive. I doubt it, but we'll see. But I do want to do some berry bushes. If I can't find enough proper information on how to grow them here, I will find someone who can share information. I'll either go out and do a video interview with somebody who's successfully growing trees, or go to like Christopher's, I know has a lot of good information. There's a place in St. John's that has a lot of good information, and I'll probably be visiting them as well. Yes, ma'am.
John Bowman has created 2 orchards in the Vernon area in his lifetime, and we did workshops at both stars, and he knows the varieties. I kind of lost track of it. You know John Bowman? Yeah, but he's the guy that you want to talk to.
I don't, but if you'll make sure I write his name down before you leave today, I will do my best to see if I can find him. Because my goal is for us to be successful. But I also understand I lose half of the stuff I plant because I'm impulsive and I'm stubborn and I rush things a lot of times. So this year I'm trying to be really intentional in what I'm doing. So before we get started, there are a ton of new faces here. I would like for us to each just go around, tell us your name, how long you've lived here, and how many seasons you've grown. So I'm Marshall. I've lived here for 4 years. This will be my 4th season growing. My 2nd season, hopefully, that I get stuff, because last year was the first time I ever got anything I could pick. So let's start over here real quick with Leah.
Hi, my name is Leah. I live on the other side of St. John's. We've been there for about 5 years. I've never grown anything in my life, but I was really like, I have nothing to contribute as far as knowledge, but I will be soaking everything up and hoping to have a garden.
I hope we can help you out.
I would love that.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Mary. We have had property, like on the county line for 2.5 years. So we've had that for years. But, I've lived up to full-time about 2.5 years. And probably been growing the 2 years. I started small little outside garden and I got 3 times. And so
Cool.
I'm really learning a lot.
Okay.
I'm Nicole. I've been up here about 5 years, growing for 4 of those, but most of that was we put in a wall of peonies when we first built on the property, which was great. You can grow year round in it. But last year was my first year growing outside, and we put in a huge outdoor garden, so it's a whole new learning curve for me in that area. But yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, I look at it as fun. I'm not always successful, but I'm out there every day having fun in it. Let's go to this table next, Jan and Dave.
I'm Jan. I came from Maine first, and I could grow anything there. Short growing season, but you could grow, take water and sun,
Yeah.
and no wind, sometimes wind. Then I moved to Colorado. That changed my growing quite a bit. Colorado is really difficult to grow,
Yeah.
but not as difficult as Arizona. I've been here 6 months, and tried a little, but I just grow flowers a little bit, things like that. But I really wanted to do edible plants.
Okay.
Try to do more this year. I found a lot of clay, and I did a lot of trenches, dig out get rid of the clay, refill it with good soil, but it's difficult.
It is difficult.
I'm still trying.
Dave has like the coolest greenhouse I've seen on Facebook so far, and I'm very envious of his greenhouse right now.
We all
Dave, tell us how long you've been here and how you grow.
I've been here almost 7 years, and I've been growing for 6. The greenhouse is about 3 years old. It took me 9 months to build. I did it by myself. And I've also put in an orchard. I've got like 20 different fruit trees. I've got pear, apple, which I started from seed.
Yeah.
I just went to Safeway and bought an apple and a pear, and I also started some peach trees, and I got plum, prune, had a couple of cherries, but that snow last year that hit us late killed both my cherry trees that were 5 years old.
Oh no.
But all the other trees are doing good.
That's good.
But the greenhouse itself, it's a thermal mass greenhouse. It heats itself during the night because it's insulated on 3 sides and the north side of the roof. The south side I put polycarbonate double wall for the sunlight to come through. Plus, to give it more mass, I put a raised bed in there that's about 2.5 foot high, so it heats up too, keeps the soil warm.
That's cool.
And then I've got about 300 gallons of water in there that heats up the place at night. And
I have none of that in my greenhouse.
and I've had tomatoes growing for almost 2 years now. I got one plant that's almost 2 years old,
That's cool.
and I got an abundance of cherry tomatoes right now. They've been growing.
That's my goal with my greenhouse, is to just have some stuff I can do.
Right now, because I keep trimming it, but those plants grow so fast.
That's cool. I can't wait. I've just now started
A lot of
seeds. I
it
haven't got
has to do
anything
with the
established
soil,
yet.
too, because it took a good 2 years for the soil to break down enough. The stuff you buy, they call it soil, but it's basically sawdust mixed with
Yeah.
cow milk.
Yeah, we're going to talk about amendments and stuff today too.
Yeah.
Becky, how long have you been here?
About 1.5 years, and I'm just starting.
Okay. All right. Kathy has a greenhouse as well. And I want to come see your greenhouse this season.
Right now, I've got lettuce, all kinds of lettuce is growing, it's just perfect. Beets, carrots, onions, leeks. My strawberry plants are still living, they're not really producing anything.
Yeah.
They're green. I've got some herbs, some garlic, and the flowers are pretty much all.
And you just grow in your greenhouse. You don't do anything outside your greenhouse.
Right, the first year I was up here, which was 3.5 years ago, we put in an outdoor garden, and overnight, the big tomato plants that I put in the ground, something came along and just ate them to nothing. I mean, they were gone, like gone. So I said, no, never mind. We already have the greenhouse structure. It has a very wide and deep cement foundation around it, which helps with the heating, and it's covered with a very pretty thick clear plastic. We then put shade cloth. And I don't have any special heating. I have some little gallons of water around the edge, but that's about it.
Okay.
And I haven't had any freezes, and I've been harvesting. I planted all this stuff in late fall, like October, and it's producing like crazy now. So
That's what my goal
next
is.
year would
I'm
be
so
like,
excited.
well, what space can I spare? Because I'm not going to pull out everything
Yeah.
just to make it fit. But yeah, it's really fun.
And then we have, is this Karen? Karen and Frank?
Right. So we've lived here, we've had probably here 15 years, but I'm here now almost 4 years full time. And we've been growing every year. The first year we did awesome. That last couple of years haven't been so great, but we do have blueberry bushes.
They're alive.
Naysayer, they exist.
They're alive. They're not producing a bunch, but they're alive.
They did the first year we planted them. We had some blueberries off of them.
Okay, cool. That gives me hope. Carl is my favorite gardener because you just grow in the ground, and you're like my grandparents and my parents in that you just do it, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I so admire that. So, Carl, tell us about how long you've been here, how long you've been gardening here, and what an amazing person you are in gardening.
The end of April, we've been here for 3 years, but this is my third growing season. And mostly it's just beds for the garden and a little bit of raised beds. Got a couple arbors I put up, blackberry bushes, strawberries, planted on some pears and apples. And the mater plant, I got cut back on them. Just too many, too much. So, that's about it.
All right. And back here we got Barbara. Barbara, for those of you who don't know her, she has a co-op called Lodestar, correct? And she is an expert. If you really have questions, she's the person to ask. I, by far, am not, but I've toured her area before, and it's amazing what she has up there. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm an expert because I made more mistakes than I have.
That's all expertise is.
In April, we will have been here 26 years,
Okay?
and 24 of those we've been growing, and making those trials and others. We're inside, outside, house, greenhouse, type of, because we've been here for 6 years. And
Yeah.
that's been a focus of one project always informs another. I'm so glad people are diversifying and extending the season of their greenhouses, because I don't think it's going to get easier. And it is certainly not going to get easier. It's slugging it out. We also grow on the ground because we've been so long. There's the one, but I would advise anybody starting with.
You also have a lot of animals, though, and stuff to help produce the extra materials to feed the soil and stuff. Like, I know you had a ton of chickens when I was there, and there were goats, I believe, when I went through there.
We use a permaculturally designed
Yeah.
demonstration site, and we do tours and educational things. That's how we pay it forward. But these garden clubs are invaluable for first-hand. I mean, the books are great. They're great.
Yeah.
They cannot possibly understand our configuration up here.
No, not at all.
All of the rules.
I'm sorry, do you have a Facebook page or a website that you can, I'm interested in seeing this.
Yes, we have 2 women who are rejuvenating our current website. It's lodestargardens.com, and they will direct you to, because it's under construction. And they just put me on Instagram and Homestead and all this stuff. All I do is write and do stuff. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I'm out there somewhere. It's not Lodestar, L-O-A-D, and it's not Lone Star.
It's L-O-D-E, correct?
It's L-O-D-E, as in the navigational stars that they use for navigation.
And Jenny, you did a community garden right here in Concho.
Yes.
Next to the church, correct?
Yes, it's actually right behind Concho Valley OPC. So they asked me to do that. I started out at Lodestar. I've been out here 10 years. I spent 8 years working, or 8 years at my own garden, 2 years just there, and then I started my own and kept working at hers too. And I love it. But so when I started at this church, they found out I was a gardener, and they said, "We want." And I said, "Oh, okay." They gave me a budget. Anyway, and I do have a greenhouse at home and an outdoor garden. I don't have a honey funnel yet, but I'm working on it.
Okay. Marilyn.
Marilyn Schultz, I live just outside of Concho Valley and the development just outside of Concho Valley. So, very similar to Concho
seasons, and then it kind of wasn't doing anything like it's getting today. And the last, I didn't grow anything this year, other than the last 2 minutes I did grow. Other than that, my life was just way too busy to
Yeah.
miss the time on the garden that wasn't working for me. So, but I still have my 4 boxes waiting for me to put in.
There you go. Jessica and Ken.
No, like, Jessica Karen and Snowflake, we've been up here full time for a while, see what things we've been going up here, so, yeah, getting the greenhouse up and full time, we started getting going, so, see how it works out.
Jessica and Ken followed us a lot on the Facebook Lives and things, because I remember you guys specifically from Facebook, because you weren't up here full time yet. So we're happy to see you guys up here. And then Nancy. Nancy's our door key.
I am.
She's our connection to the Mellon Center for this.
I'm just up here 18 years ago, from California. In California, also houses, gardens, full time, flowers. But in Georgia, you just pretty much have everything.
Yeah.
Coming out here was a trauma for me.
Trauma.
And it's still traumatic at times. I worked full time until mid 2024. So I worked a lot and I worked at the food center as well. So the gardening, I tried in the ground for 10 years of just trauma. We finally had built our base garden, which is doing well, but we're going to do our greenhouse this year. We had huskies, so chickens were stopped for now. One is extremely sugar tempered.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully, but it's been a great information.
And while we just finished up with Nancy, I want to let everybody know that there are donation tins up here somewhere, right here. If you ever just feel the generosity in your hearts, they let us use this space. If you've got $1 or $2 to throw in here to help keep the lights on, that helps them, which helps us in turn.
And also, if you want to become a member.
That's true. And they do also, Concho Can has a Facebook page that you can also follow, and they let you know all the different things that happen here at the Mellon Center, because there are events here all the time. There's Monday Bingo, there's food at Monday Bingo. Monday Bingo seems to be getting really, really popular. I haven't been, but they have, is line dancing still happening? Line dancing happens on Thursday in the evenings after this meeting. I don't know if it happens twice a month, but Concho Can puts out a calendar on Facebook, and they'll also, you can get on their email list. I know they have a preparedness class that will be this evening. They're making tortillas from scratch at tonight's preparedness class. So just to let you know that there's some stuff going on here as well. As far as starting your garden, I started with containers, and I have no urge to grow in the ground here. I grow in containers. I just buy those black totes that you see at like a Home Depot, Lowe's, or whatever. I drill holes in the bottom for drainage, and that's what I grow in. It worked for me last year. That was the first time I did it. I tried growing in cloth bags. I couldn't keep the soil moist enough to keep the plants alive enough for them to thrive. I may try, because I still have cloth bags, using them inside the greenhouse, because you can kind of control the humidity in the greenhouse. I may or may not have better luck in there with that. So that's something I will try. But I grow specifically in containers. I know Carl does some growing in raised beds and in the ground. So there's different ways you can grow. There's also aquaponics. I had one of those little tabletop aquaponic things that you can put on a counter, and when I lived on Cinder Drive the first year we were here, and I don't know if it was the water that was going in it, but I couldn't get anything but lettuce to grow successfully in mine. When I had it in Georgia, I had it was a salsa garden. So I grew fully a salsa garden in Georgia on my counter with tomatoes, peppers, cilantro, all that stuff. I could only get lettuce to grow successfully on Cinder Drive, and that's with me adding the additives to the water. I don't know if there was minerals in the water that stopped. I really don't know. I will be trying it again this year. We have our well dug now. I live over here off of 61, and we have a whole house filter that filters out some of those minerals. So I'm hoping it'll be a little more successful this year. That's going to be one of the experiments I try. So there's plenty of different ways that you can garden. And if something doesn't work for you, try another one, because whatever your area is and whatever level that you want to give to your garden, something else may work better than what you first tried. Don't give up, because the first year I was here, everything sunburnt within 6 weeks. I had no idea higher elevations made a difference, and it does. I never even considered shade cloth, didn't know what shade cloth was. That's an absolute need if you're growing out here, is what I've learned. So that first year, I could have just given up, gotten frustrated, continued to just buy my produce from grocery stores or whatever, but I kept trying. The second year I did the cloth bags. I grew a couple of peppers out of there, got some lettuce, a couple of radishes, but it was really hard to get my goal is a tomato. I want a tomato sandwich so bad I can't stand it. Just like a real homegrown tomato sandwich. That'll be the epitome of my garden season if I get that this year. I couldn't get that with cloth bags. I grew tomatoes last year in the plastic tubs. The soil was able to maintain its moisture. The wind did not dry it out. It wasn't in a greenhouse. It was just outside with hard wire around it to keep the rodents out. And that was much better, but my tomatoes wouldn't get bigger than a golf ball, which was very frustrating. And I think that's a humidity issue. That's what I've told myself. So I'm going to try it in the greenhouse, see if I can get some better tomatoes in the greenhouse. I'll still have a couple of plants outside. But I'm going to try to grow a couple inside just to see if I just want one sandwich, and I would be happy on my fresh homegrown sourdough bread. And then if you're going to grow in the ground, the only thing I can tell you is amend, and amend, because the soil here is just not right for it. Not on its own anyways. So last year, Holly from the Extension Service came in. She showed us how to do the little dirt test. The dirt test just tests for composition. It's not going to tell you anything about acidic levels, your pH levels, nothing like that. It just tells you what kind of dirt you have. So I dug my dirt up, and I did my little jar right here. Now, I'm colorblind, and I can't really see any lines in here. This has sat for over 24 hours. I have a little bit of this top layer right here, this fine clay, or this is all clay. I don't know, because I can't see a difference in this soil at all. This is what's behind my greenhouse where I plan on growing an outdoor garden. The way you do this is you dig about 6 inches down in different places of your garden if you're going to grow in ground. Don't do it just in one place. Go ahead and dig down 6 inches, set that soil aside, take your sample after that 6 inches, add it to a jar, and you can do it from multiple locations, like 5 or 6 locations in one jar. Fill your jar up with some dirt, fill the rest of the way up with water, shake it up real good, and as the soil settles, you'll be able to see if you have clay, sandy soil, a little mix of whatever. Somebody tell me who you are. Jenny, right? Yeah. I told you I'm horrible with names. Jenny gave me some printouts, and she only has 10 of them here. But it's on making your garden soil. and it shows percentages of how to make a good garden soil. So we have these here. Like if you have a high clay soil, which is what I think mine is. And again, I can't tell any difference in the layers in this. I just see one thing, but I'm colorblind, so I have trouble distinguishing. But it's lumpy, it's sticky. If I walk out there in the rain, I'm carrying half the yard back in with me because it literally cements to my shoes. So, if you have hard clay soil, it's going to retain water, but it's not really going to help your plants with nutrition. The roots are going to have a hard time spreading out, especially when it's dry. Sandy soil doesn't really retain water well. It makes it hard for the roots to get their nutrients. Silty soil, loamy soil, you've got all these differences. We have chalky soil out here too. And then last year I learned a term called blow sand, which I thought was funny, and my husband and I now use that a lot. Because when it gets windy out here and all that sand blows around and piles up in one place, that's now our blow sand. It's not just sand. We've named it. But I'm going to put these sheets over here so that if you would like to see what you can do with your soil, if you do a soil test, we have some things there. Yes, ma'am. I'm making more.
That's not,
And Nancy's making more because she's sent from God.
it's not really, so that's if, so what I did is I bought some 18-inch deep galvanized beds for the church. And that's specifically how we filled them up. And the last, we'll say, 8 to 10 inches was soil that we made. And that's the recipe for making the soil. It's got compost in it, worm
Yeah.
castings, perlite, I used cocoa coir, but just a whole bunch of really nutrient-dense materials to use in building up your beds, and how much of each. And I put it together like in a wheelbarrow-sized mix. So it's about a 1.5 foot each time in a wheelbarrow, and then we dumped it in the bed. And those beds were awesome. They did so great growing last year. So I'm building ones like that at my house now, because I started out just mixing manure and stuff in my beds. And they do okay, but I was like, that was just so great. They were overflowing, they were tall, everything was just beautiful. So I'm like, it's a really good recipe for making soil without using, there's like 4 cups of native soil in that. You would 1.5 foot that's, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you probably want to do that. When I learned at Lodestar, now I'm an organic gardener, so everything is organic. So at Lodestar, I added in compost and goat manure each year because I have goats. That chicken manure will do too, but you gotta age it. And then just a little bit of some of the other materials to bring it up to, yeah. And it's all nutrient dense is what you want to put in there though.
So the only animals that I have on my property, besides my cat and my dog, which are completely useless in the gardening environment for me, are chickens. I have chickens. I keep my bedding whenever I clean out my coop. And I don't have like a compost place set up or anything. I just put it in a giant black trash bag, and it's just been sitting on this big rock I have, waiting for this year's season. Last year in my totes, what I did was I took the oldest of my bedding for my chickens. It had not sat for a whole year. They say you have to let it sit for a whole year because it could burn. So what I did was I just put that in the bottom of my totes. Like I drilled my holes, I put some rocks just from around the yard because God knows we have enough rocks out here. And then I put about 3 or 4 inches of chicken bedding in the bottom. And then I put about 8 to 10 inches of mushroom compost. Not because I have anything against like cow manure or any other kind of compost. I just don't like the smell of it, and I'm a texture person, and just the thought of me sticking my hands in something that has cow I couldn't do it. So I did mushroom compost. It worked fine for me. And then I used a garden soil on top. I fertilized as I went throughout the year, the growing season. It worked for me. It didn't seem to burn any of my plants. This year, probably next month, I'm going to dump those buckets out, let my chickens scratch through them in case there's any larvae or anything that the chickens want. Like, have at it. They're my babies. And then I will do the same process again. I will keep all of that soil and stuff from my beds from last year. I will start with the rocks, start with the bedding that I've got in the black bags. I'm also adding the ash and stuff from my fireplace to that black bag. I don't know if that's what biochar is, but in my head, that makes sense. It's
Ash is actually very, very high in very alkaline, so actually wash the ash off and take any of the chunks. The chunks is your biochar.
okay. See, I learned something today.
Take from your wood burning fireplace. The chunks is your biochar.
Yeah, because I know biochar will help retain moisture
And that's in there.
from my research, is
Yeah.
what I learned.
And the microbes.
And so I'm trying to do as much of that as I can. So that stuff will be the layer above the rocks, and then I'll probably do a layer of the soil that was there from last year mixed with some more mushroom compost. And that's how I'm going to plan on building my beds this year. Last year I used the bags of like bark mulch stuff to mulch over my containers. It held the moisture very well. I've decided this year I don't want to do that. I started buying straw for my chickens' run. And I'm not going to take the straw from the chicken run and put it in. But I'm going to buy some straw just for mulching my containers. I am going to build a couple of raised beds this year as well, and I'm going to do the same process in the raised beds. Yes, sir.
I'd like to mention something about straw. I'm Robert.
Hi, Robert.
I can get a sign. I'd be really great. 3 years ago, my friend got some straw for her chicken coop. 3 families got that straw. 3 families had lost half their garden, meaning food, because we all used that for different gardens. 3 different families. Because it's toxified. They dry out the wheat cakes or yolks with Roundup. And you can get straw hay, it's even worse, which there's also some of that in there. They spray the grass hay so it doesn't sprout milkweed, alfalfa. or
So let me
anything
ask you a question.
So there's herbicides in this stuff and it does not bring.
Let me ask y'all a question, because then y'all will know I do not. Again, I just try things every year.
I just wanted to bring
Do
that
they
up.
label that on the bags if you go to buy straw? Like if I go to Cal Ranch, is it labeled on there that they get anything?
There's no bags in the clean out of the chicken.
Okay.
Well, then you buy straw.
You buy straw in big bales. There's no-
Well, I just bought like a bag, like they had compressed bags of pieces of straw at Cal Ranch. That's what I used in my chicken coop. Yes, ma'am.
Even if you use organic straw, it ties up nitrogen.
Okay, so I'm not going to use straw this year in my containers, is what I've just decided just this moment. I'm going to come up with another way to mulch my thing, because I want to hold the moisture in, but I don't want to kill everything either, because I'm working really hard to get my seeds to sprout.
It's about half the garden. Let me put it that way.
It takes about 3 to 4 years to cut for
My plan was to move the straw from the chicken run to cover the ground around all of my containers in my garden area, just so I don't have to walk in mud if it gets wet. And that way I could put fresh straw in for my birds to make them think I like them, because they're my little dinosaurs. So that was my plan. But if it's toxic, I mean, well, I'm growing in containers and raised beds, so I guess if I have it on the ground outside that, it wouldn't bother the plants. But I really didn't like the way the mulch, the bark stuff. Again, I'm a texture person. I didn't like the texture of my hands being all up in there, and spiders get in there, and spiders are my number 2 enemy in a garden. just because I hate spiders.
This won't help you, but, horse manure makes great mulch, not great fertilizer, but it makes great mulch.
That was the thing I was gonna say about the straw, I forgot. It passes the horse, it passes presumption, it passes the any farm that has a pig. It's still in the manure. It's still in there. This is a serious thing.
So let me ask you guys a question then. This is completely off topic. This is how these meetings go. What do you use to mulch your gardens to help retain moisture? What do you do to cover the soils to help retain moisture in your gardens?
For the last 3 years, I've been siding down part of my spare acre, and making compost out of that, and wood chips. And sometimes plastic or cloth, depending on what I want.
Yeah, I use wood chips, a lot of wood chips.
A lot of wood
And I
chips.
use it for bedding for my chickens, too, as long as it's not cedar. And it works real good in my greenhouse. And outside around my, fruit trees, keeps them warm.
Okay. What do you use?
Well, if you want to put a little, it takes gas and time, but, when Concho Lakeside, they have a mandate in those towns to rake their pine needles twice a year. And they put new bags and they leave them on the corner. And the city comes up, they have no problem if you take those. The problem is that we could have jobs for people, maybe cigarette bills, and maybe someone does actually use something on their lawn. But beagles have a tendency of letting the wind pass, and they don't go in, but they're fresh needles. If you don't want them to disintegrate, instead you can take them in straw, and not have your knife. But if you lay them on top, they stay there. And so we go and clean up on top.
Okay, so just pine needles and leaves.
Leaves are great. Leaves are the best.
So let me ask you this. I know you can get permits to go cut trees down in the national forest. Do they put you in jail if you go rake leaves out of the national forest?
They don't want you to take
I
what
don't think it's supposed to be.
you can't take up.
Don't go to the state park.
Just pick up rocks.
Go to the state park.
Anyway, as we do. Actually, I do it all the time. I go show load in the park and.
People leave 40 bags on the corner of the
Yeah.
property.
and
Yeah. We don't have anything but junipers growing on our property. We don't really have anything that we can like use. Yeah.
During the right season in the spring when we shed needles, people leave 20 or 30 bags on the edge of the property and hope somebody comes and gets it.
All right, I'll make sure I do that this year. I'm gonna go pick up needles. Yeah, I'll have my husband drive. To get back to the soil types, the notes that I made, as we got off on our tangent. Clay soil is lumpy and sticky and wet and rock hard when dry, which is what my property is like, where my garden area is anyways. It's slow draining and holds more nutrients. It's rich in plant food. It's slow to warm in spring, and it's hard to cultivate because it stays so dry. Sandy soil is dry and gritty to the touch and is unable to retain moisture due to its particle size. Water drains rapidly, so plants can't make full use of the nutrients. So if you have a real sandy soil and you're watering it with liquid fertilizer, it's not going to be able to hold that. Silty soil is smooth to the touch, and when moist has a soapy-like consistency, which I just, ugh, I don't want to touch that. It retains moisture longer than sandy soil and is rich in nutrients, easier to cultivate than clay. It does drain poorly, but can be good soil if well managed with amendments. Loamy soil is soft, dry, and crumbly, the perfect, well-balanced soil for gardening. Made from a mix of clay, sand, and silt, retains moisture, drains well, full of nutrients. So it looks like loamy soil is kind of like what the goal is. I don't know how easy that would be to make in ground, and I'm going to be honest, I will never know because I have no intention of growing in the ground here. So the next slide, though, does is going to be us talking about amendments. In Georgia, the only amendments I used in my school classroom garden was worm castings, because we grew worms. We had like worm boxes, because kids in elementary school think worms are cool. So that's what we used. But again, in Georgia, you have no problems growing anything. We didn't have to really add anything. But worm castings are nutrient dense and improves soil structure and microbial life. What I'm learning in my research is the microbial life is the important part. You got to have life in your soil. Compost improves the soil structure, drainage, aeration, and water retention. I know a lot of people have their own compost piles out here. It's just me and my husband, and to be honest, all our chicken scraps go to our dog or our chickens from our kitchen. Like everything just goes, I don't have anything to make compost out of. I'd rather give it to my dinosaurs and my dog, because they appreciate it and think I'm awesome for doing that. So I just buy bags of compost, because that's what I do. Now, Holly Winter, last year, she told us that you can go to the fair, the county fair place up here, when they, by the Bub, the big ugly building, they have piles of like manure and stuff from rodeos and the state fair when animals are here and stuff. They just pile it up. You can go take it. You can just bring a truck and load it up if you just want some of the manure for the for your composting garden. I haven't done that because I just have a mental block about dealing with poop. It's just a thing, but it's there. Manure adds lots of nutrients and organic material, but must be composted to avoid burning plants. I know that the fairgrounds up there, they have piles by year. So you wouldn't get like the fresh one from this year. You would go to the older piles. Also, I can't imagine any rancher out here would care if you went and just picked up cow patties out of there. Like, my neighbor has 2 cows. That's my plan if I ever decide I just really need some cow poop for my garden. I'm just going to go crawl under the fence. I'd already told them, and they're like, yeah, come get it. They don't.
Safe too, because it's from the baby plants.
Yeah.
It's not the herbicide product.
Perlite is like volcanic glass. It lightens the soil and improves drainage and aeration. I will say the native community out here, historically, they would take the cinders, that's just volcanic rock, and they would break it up and they would use it in their gardens to help aerate the soil and make it better for drainage. They also use it for mulch. Maybe I mulch my garden with that. I don't know. I have plenty.
I use cinder a lot.
Yeah, I have tons of it. I have a whole corner of my property that's nothing but a lava field, so.
It works real well.
Peat moss and coconut coir helps sandy soil retain water and nutrients. I've seen people break up coconut coir. I've never used it. I have no experience with it, so I can't really speak on it. It was just part of the research and ways to amend your soil. I would assume if you have clay soil or sandy soil, it would be a good thing to mix in just to help break up those particles of soil to make it easier to grow. Do you ever use coconut coir?
Yes, I use it a lot. The recipe, actually, that's one of the biggest elements is coconut oil.
Yeah, and it's something that you can easily get shipped to you out here because it comes in brick form and then you wet it and it expands.
And it's also great for seed starting, except with your, you can buy some bag soil, use 1/3 that, 1/3 compost, or half and half of that. So it's good for seed starting, because it's quite clearing.
I know when you buy a lot of bagged soil, like pre-bagged soil, it'll have peat moss. It'll say it has peat moss or coconut coir in it, or it'll mention perlite specifically. And there was something else, vermiculite, that's mentioned. My plan is to buy bags of perlite or vermiculite. I got to do more research because I really don't know how to use either. Again, I gardened in Georgia for 24 years. I didn't have to do anything in Georgia.
It's inert, it doesn't get any.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, it just makes it a little airier. Biochar was the last thing I had on this list. It's charcoal-like material, not ash. Learned that today. And it improves soil structure, water retention, and nutrient holding capacity long term. This is not charcoal like bag charcoal you get for your charcoal grill. There is a difference. But I do believe if you burn wood and you have the large chunks of the black stuff, that is biochar.
Yeah, but you need to live to, it needs to actually, once it's done, and you have a core, and you burn it in the fire, it also needs to ferment. You need milk. And it becomes the feeding ground for microbial life. It's rosemary.
Okay.
That would be like compost.
Yeah,
With-
yes.
And so that would be sufficient.
Yes.
Without the steer the for.
Yes, and that's actually excellent. That's what I use too.
I'm learning so much about amendments today.
And the easiest.
Absolutely had the worst plan going in my head. All right, I'm going to see if I can buy some biochar because clearly I wasn't prepared for biochar, and I do want to use it this year. Yes, Nicole?
When I learned about biochar, my husband started making it. He just gets a big metal 55-gallon drum, puts it over a heavy, puts all the wood chips in there. Probably about that big. But as it burns and off gases, and Barbara's right, you definitely want to inoculate it afterwards. We have ducks, so we have a really nasty duck pond, which the plants absolutely love. So we inoculate it with that. And it gets all those microbes that biochar, those little charcoal pieces just soak all that up. And you've got instant microbes going into your bed. And it has made all the difference in our rates.
So let me ask y'all this. What do y'all think of this idea? I just run off ideas. What if you took biochar and then to inoculate it, you use like a compost tea? Like if you make a compost tea in a 5-gallon bucket, and then you pour that over your pieces of wood that you burnt, would that be sufficient to inoculate it if you just like let it soak in that for a while?
I haven't used that before, but
I would think so. I mean, I have a little worm farm, so I use like something like that, like the worm tea and compost tea that way. Anything like that, anything that has that microbes in it, because we have stuff on water with the algae and the duck poop and all that stuff in it. It just takes a day or two to soak it in 5-gallon bucket, and you've got enough for a huge bed. I mean, it doesn't take much.
they say only use about 5 to 10%,
Yeah.
no more than that of biochar.
Right.
Yeah, it's not for a large amount. It's truly just an amendment like you would amend with perlite or anything else. Yes?
Go drink soccer for making it. I saw somebody do this, they just beat the garden, got a tub, threw in all the charcoal, and just layered it with all the leaves on the garden, just let it rot. And it's just
Okay.
loaded with microbes and they're obviously growing on green material.
Yeah.
And so everything, you take it out, whatever you like. Just goes.
Okay. That sounds like a cool plan.
This kind of
I guess you just want to like it.
In case you didn't know, Farmer's Almanac will not be printed anymore after this year. This is the last year to print it. I remember Farmer's Almanac. It's like my grandmother. Everything she did, from haircuts to gardening to anything, went by the Farmer's Almanac calendar. That's just what she did. A lot of Appalachian women did that. But they still are going to maintain their website. So it's just almanac.com is their website. According to almanac.com, our last frost date this year is May 7th. And our first fall frost is October the 9th. That gives you a 154-day period for outdoor growing from their predicted last frost date to their predicted first frost date in the fall. For those of you who have not been here for more than a few years, it means something, but it doesn't mean something. Just like the little grow charts on the back of seeds, we're like 7A, 7B, something like that. We're like right on that line. But because I'm 6,500 feet above sea level, that means nothing. That's what I learned in 2 years of trying to grow based on seed packet instructions.
4 years ago, we had killing frost.
Yeah.
Absolute hard freeze, June 10th.
Yeah.
Some snow.
Yeah, and we've had snow here at Halloween.
We were talking about biomes and microplanets. You and I are 500 feet higher than people in Concho.
Yeah.
We plant 2 weeks, and I'm only 9 miles up the road. 2 weeks later than you.
Yeah.
That's how discreet these places are.
So I watch
No
a,
best practices.
we're retired. My husband and I are retired. I don't have a job to go to. I sit at home and play video games and play with my chickens. Like, that's really the extent of the stress of my day. And I make sourdough bread. That's it. And I watch a lot of YouTube. And of course, all the gardening posts are happening now. What seeds to start and what to do. But what I have to keep reminding myself mentally, because I get all excited, is they're growing in California. Doesn't apply to me. They're growing in Florida. Doesn't apply to me. M.I. Gardner, his stuff sometimes applies because he's up at, he has a huge thing up in Michigan. And so they do have like a cooler climate, but it's not the same elevation. So I have to really, really tamper myself back watching these videos because they're out here seeding flowers outside already and doing all this stuff, and you just can't do that. I'm hoping I learn how to use my greenhouse so that I can start doing some of that stuff. But this is my first year with the greenhouse, so I don't know. But I try to tell myself I'm 6 weeks behind anything they're doing anywhere else because most of those videos, they're going to have their last frost in February. If they even have one, exactly. So it's not applicable here. And now I will say this book right here, The Seed to Supper, and I'll go talk to somebody next week and see if I can't find out. But they zone things out, and again, I'm colorblind, and this all being the same shade, just a little dark, I can't tell where the lines are. But it does it based on elevation as well. And all of their charts, they have some really good charts in here, and they're all based on elevation also. So when they do their seed planting, when to start seeds, they go from the valley where it's up to 1,000 feet all the way up to above 6,000 feet, and they're different dates because the elevation does matter. And it matters just like Barbara was saying, from what we're at to what's right here to what's further down in Old Concho. It's all different because the elevation is different. And it makes a bigger difference than you would think because I didn't think it was that big a deal, which is why I didn't get anything to pick for the first 2 years. So when I'm giving you information on like what seed you can start now or whatever, I'm using this information, I'm using almanac.com, I'm using these books, like I'm really trying to pull as much information as I can. Is it absolutely the right information? Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. But it's what I'm going to go by this year anyways. So that's our growing season. It's a pretty short growing season. You can probably do some stuff in cold frames. I think that's what they're called. Like if you have cold frames outside, which are just raised gardens with like a glass or a plastic cover over it, kind of works a little like a greenhouse. That helps. You might be able to find like old windows or something at the dump or in, some of the thrift stores or something that you could use to make those kinds of things out of. That could extend it. I've grown lettuce in the dead of winter just by turning a lid of a clear tote upside down, putting the bag of soil in there, cutting some rows in the bag, leaving the soil in the bag, spreading my lettuce seeds in there and putting the plastic tote that's clear over it and creating something. And it snowed on it and still didn't kill stuff. So there are ways to get around our climate. We just have to keep trying things to figure out what works on your specific place, at your specific elevation, with your specific wind blocks and amount of sunlight, because it will vary, which is not to be discouraging, it's just a fun adventure. According to my research, this is what we should be starting seeds of now. That's just according to my research. And this is starting seeds indoors. This is not for starting outside. Pepper plants take a long time to get really nice and strong. If you have a chance to put your pepper plants, start them indoors now, then they'll just be ready for you, you know, in 3 months when we can put them outside. And it'll make a stronger plant. Another thing I learned this year that I didn't know is that pepper plants have shallow roots. And so if you plant 2 or 3 pepper plants together, their roots will intertwine and make them a stronger root base, so that when our windy season comes, which is right when we put plants outside, they have a better shot at maintaining their grip in the soil. I haven't tried that. I'm going to try it this year and see how that works. That'll be one of my experiments in my outdoor area. But I'm very excited for my pepper plants. I've already started my brassicas, which I could have been growing all along in the greenhouse. I just didn't have the greenhouse built then. I never got broccoli last year. I really want broccoli this year. So I've already started my broccoli seeds in my greenhouse, and hopefully I can put them out in a couple of months, because they can kind of take a little bit of cold. So if I cover up the beds, if we have like a big snowstorm coming or something, they should be okay, in my head anyways. I started my onions from seed. This is about starting from seed, not from the bulbs. I've never grown onions before, but I assume it's going to work. If you've never grown mint before, grow it in a container. I don't know what a cardinal flower is. I don't know what a bone set is. I don't even know if that's how you say it.
Those are herbs.
I've never tried to grow ginger. I would love to grow ginger. I assume you can just buy ginger root at a store also and grow it.
Ginger's also a food product.
Yeah, I don't know how well it would grow outside, but I would like to try it in my greenhouse. I grew jalapenos like crazy last year, so I know those will work. I know we have a lavender farm around here somewhere, so I know that works. Marigolds you always grow for the garden, in my head. Most of your herbs and stuff should be able to be growing now. I wouldn't know what to do with horseradish if I grew it, or what it looks like. Peas. Can you start peas from seeds? I don't know. And then transplant them?
Yes? Well, I wouldn't transplant them, no. I'd put them directly into the ground. Yeah. Yeah.
And they'll be fine even if you plant them now, you think? Or would you wait?
They wouldn't like the snow, but I don't think cold temperatures are really
If you cover them, you do really good. You make a low cover. But once it gets hot, they do come.
Yes.
We get way too much sun.
Yeah, I waited way too long to plant peas last year. And while it was great, they had a couple of flowers on them. They didn't really have a growing season long enough to grow any, like I couldn't pick any peas. I didn't even have any really for saving seeds or anything. There might have been 8 pods total. But I think it's because I planted them too late and the heat really did them in. Because our heat gets hot,
Yes.
quick. And then it turns around and gets cold at night. But these were the seeds that were recommended. I'm going to start all of my herbs this week this week and next week. I bought a big, huge tray that has the little plugs, the little plug spaces. So that's what I'm going to start all of my herbs in, and then I'll transfer them probably to solo cups, because solo cups are inexpensive and easy. And that's how I do it. I'm a lazy gardener. I also did some research on how much you should grow. This is a per person thing. It's not really a per family. And it also varies if you're gonna like put stuff up for a whole year. I think this is just for fresh eating. Because I don't think 3 to 5 bell pepper plants would last me a whole year, even for just me. Yeah, celery, I thought that was a bit much, but now I had way more than that last year in one tote, because I just dumped the whole bag of seeds in there. Because I dried most of it, and then my chickens loved a lot of it, and we made a lot of soups with celery this past year. I probably won't even grow, I might grow 5 celery seeds this year. Jalapeno peppers, I mean, I love eating jalapeno peppers, so 2 to 4 wouldn't be enough for me either. So I put this slide up here because that's what you're going to find if you just do a search online. But you have to adjust it for your own self. Like cilantro, 2 to 4. I know people love cilantro. I don't know how to cook with it. I don't have that it tastes like soap problem. I just don't know what to do with it besides salsa. I still have rosemary and thyme from last year because I'm still working on my whole growing journey. And 9 to 15 onions, that can't be enough for a whole year or for one person. I would go through 15 of them in 2 weeks. I'm not growing a ton of onions this year just because I've never grown them before. And I don't know how well they're going to do. This is my experiment year for onions.
Yeah, the wood's done for me really well outside.
Yeah. I'm hoping. I want to grow okra this year. That's a goal. But I can transplant okra if I start it as a plant, as a seedling inside the greenhouse. I can transplant it when it gets warmer, right? Yeah, my plan is to grow some okra this year. That's a goal. I didn't do good with cucumbers or any kind of melons or anything last year. I'd like to be able to grow some cucumbers.
Is it okay in the greenhouse?
Maybe it'll work in my greenhouse. That's my goal. It'll all be very much a learning thing for me. Let's see what else is on here. Oh, if you have not established a garden space, now would be a good time for you to start watching where the sun is. The sun's going to get higher in the sky, so it's not going to shine exactly where it's going to shine in the summer peak growing months. But you need to make sure you're not putting your garden in a place that's completely covered by trees or, something like that. Like now's the time to pay attention. In Georgia with the students, we would do a chart for how long the shadows were at the beginning of the school year through the winter, and then as summer came, you could see the shadows getting shorter again in some places. So they were able to use that data to figure out where would be the best place to put our garden beds. Also remember, sun can kill your plants out here if you're not careful. So my plan is to have my outdoor garden behind my greenhouse, because the way my property is set up, I have my chickens here, my greenhouse is right here. And I want to connect the chicken run in the back out and around to the back of the greenhouse so that it's all fenced off as well. And that way I can grow back there. The sun will be higher in the sky, so there'll be plenty of sun. But I also have a place to shade from wind and sun if I need to have that break for some plants. Everything's going to be in containers except for 2 garden beds that'll be raised garden beds. So I can move things as I need to. And my peppers, I'm going to do have you guys seen where they make the racks and they use the 5-gallon buckets and they stack them to make a little grow thing? That's what I'm going to do for my peppers this year. For my hot peppers, I'm going to put them in one, and then I'm going to have one for sweet peppers that is on the complete other side of the garden, so they won't cross-pollinate. But I think I'm going to grow them in 5-gallon buckets, because then when the cooler weather comes, I can just take the buckets out and move them in the greenhouse. and hopefully extend their growing season a little bit. I don't know if that'll work or not, but I'm gonna try it.
You also even possibly overwinter them, which is from the greenhouse over the winter? 2 years at least, yeah. And take
I'm hoping, my greenhouse is not that big, but I'm hoping to make the most of all the space I have in there, to use it to the best of my ability. And I'm also gonna have, when I have my grow beds and my totes out, I'm gonna make sure that I have a way to put hoops over them so that I can put shade cloth over them. If it's just windy, I can put some, you know, some fabric over them or whatever to protect from the wind, that kind of thing. Next meeting, my plan is to talk about how our seed starting is going, because there are some things you really should just go ahead and start seeds on to get that head start. I do want to focus on some trees and bushes next meeting, because I think you're supposed to plant them when they're dormant.
And pruning happens this month.
For existing trees and bushes.
That's a whole session.
All right, I will research that as well. And there's another thing about like planning your garden, your whole homestead actually, as far as zones go. For me, it's important because I have some physical issues to where sometimes I can't get around really well. So I need to make sure things that I want to focus on a daily basis are close enough to me to where even on a bad day I can get there. So I have 10 acres. My fruit trees may or may not go in the good soil part of my property. But if I do that, it's a long way away from where I'm actually at. So I would have to like commit to going back and forth. So my other option I'm considering because of zones is doing dwarf plants the first year and keeping them in containers so that I can move them inside if I need to, or move them to different areas. But also they can stay closer to where I'm able to get up and move around and be easy at. I plan my garden to be close to my chickens because my chickens benefit almost more than we do from my garden. So it's nice to have them close by. I can just throw things that I pull from my garden. Last year I tried to plant some flowers. I don't remember what kind they were. I've got it written down somewhere. But aphids absolutely went nuts for them. It may have been calendria. Nasturtium. Nasturtiums attract aphids, which I didn't know. And then I planted nasturtium seeds in every single tote because I was like, ooh, let's plant a flower and you can eat it. And it'll attract pollinators to my vegetables. And then I went in there and it was just literally covered from top to bottom. So I just took the whole thing out and gave it to my chickens because I didn't even want to deal with that. So, you know, that's what we're going to discuss a lot next time, is just the plan part of it.